right, we are live. The two Kates are here, and we're going to let people pile into the live stream. I have with me Kate Compton Barr out of North Carolina 14.
That's right.
Fantastic. And we're going to talk about the rather unique situation you find yourself in when it comes to how you will be running as a candidate. And I'm just making sure, people are able to come in. And if you don't already know me, which you probably should, but I am Kate Powell with Kate for the People, and I yell a lot into my phone and post it on the internet. And for some reason, you guys watch that, which is really nice and wonderful of you. We are in the middle of our midterms candidate profiling series, where we are taking a bunch of candidates who are running to unseat people who do not need to be in our Congress anymore for, I think, some very obvious reasons, especially tragic reasons like what we've had today in Minneapolis, as well as plenty of other examples to choose from. If you have not already seen my articles about midterm prep and the 9 points for the candidate of our dreams, as in the Congress of our dreams, the personality of the organism we're trying to create to combat all of this authoritarianism, I suggest you go read that because that will help you quite a bit. But as we get started, first, Kate, other Kate, please introduce yourself, who you are, and specifically tell us what you're running, like which races you're running in, because this is a very unique part of your campaign.
Yes. So I am Kate Barr. I think of myself as a behavioral scientist. That's what I spent most of my life studying and working in persuasive communication, and kind of accidentally fell into politics when I ran for state senate in 2024 with a radically honest campaign about gerrymandering. I'm currently running for Congress in the Republican primary. I am functionally a Democrat. Progressive is probably the best label for me. But because of the way our state is gerrymandered and the way primaries work here, the only way for voters to have a real choice is for people like me to challenge incumbent Republicans in the primary. So that's what I'm doing.
Fantastic. Yeah, so a couple of notes about North Carolina. As I was just chatting with Kate before we went live, their primaries are only partially open, where Republicans and non-affiliateds can vote in the Republican primary, but Democrats cannot. And I'm assuming vice versa, right? Like if you're in the Democratic primary, if there is one, you wouldn't be able to write.
Yep.
And so I would love for you to tell me more about the numbers that have just come out as far as how voters are preparing for your race in particular.
Well, let's talk about District 14 specifically.
Mm-hmm.
So there are about 544,000 registered voters, and the majority of them are actually registered unaffiliated. Almost 40% of them are, because North Carolinians are savvy. We have been a swing state for long enough that everyone kind of knows how this game is played.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we just saw come out recently is that statewide, we have watched the numbers of registered Democrats slip, while the numbers of registered Republicans rise and registered unaffiliated rise the highest. It looks like most new registered voters are choosing to be unaffiliated, and that is the largest group in the state, because that's how you get to pick.
Right, exactly. That's the only way you actually get to participate in primary. And especially if you are gerrymandered, the Republicans are really the only ones having races in the primaries. So yeah, that makes perfect sense. So I love your mission. I've been following your campaign for a while, actually. The first time that I saw a video that was like, I'm running in the Republican primary, I was like, tell me more. And then the more you explained it across social media and whatnot, the more I was like, well, this is brilliant. And this is exactly the type of creative political thinking we need right now, because we need to pull every tool that's in the toolbox. We need to create some as well, as in this case right here, because our democracy needs us, to put it bluntly. So I love all of this, Kate, so very much. So I want to talk about why you would be part of the Congress/candidates of our dreams, according to my goofy little framework here.
It's not goofy. I really like it.
Oh, good.
I think we should be grading everybody on this scale. Just
fantastic.
saying. I'm not just saying that because I'm talking to you.
That's amazing. I love that so much. So let's start with number one and campaign finance slash, elected official finance, which I think are basically the same thing. When we try to act like when they become elected, all of a sudden like it's a different game, and it's like it's literally the same game. So
Yeah.
you wanted to speak specifically, not necessarily about corporate campaign money, but about stock trading, which again, those things kind of hold hands anyway.
Yeah.
So feel free to take that however you wish, as far as like reforms you'd put in, unique thoughts you have. Go.
I mean, first we have to describe the scope of the problem.
Mhm.
So in North Carolina, we have a Senate race this year, and it is likely to be the first $1 billion Senate race in electoral history, which is insane.
It is
When you
insane.
think about that money, because of how campaigns are funded, that money comes from private donors. And the only way you can get to numbers that big is if those donors are corporations. And then we end up in a place where our elected officials are beholden to corporations, not to voters, and then we can't hold them accountable when they go make stupid ass decisions. Sorry, can we swear on this? We should clarify
Absolutely.
that right up
You
front. Okay,
you can swear as much as you want.
great. Because our elected officials, as we talked about, are supposed to be afraid of us, but instead they're afraid of losing donor money. So when you look at my opponent, Tim Moore, for example, he's a real stock trader. He's on the Financial Services Committee, and he loves to have a hearing and then go make some stock trades before things become public knowledge. So, for example, he bought stock in Intel prior to the government becoming a shareholder. One of the things that he did that was super gross is while the so-called big beautiful bill was being discussed, he was publicly saying that he thought it was going to be great for the American economy and was privately buying shares of a fund that basically shorts the American economy. So he was putting his money in a place that said he thought the American economy was going to fail while his mouth was saying that this was great.
Right.
Um, and like we just have to like literally cut all of this shit out. So Congress people shouldn't be able to trade stocks. Like they have too much information. It's
Mhm.
unreasonable to think that they can wall that off in their brains. And also it's just unnecessary. Like have a blind trust. That's a place to start. Obviously, Citizens United is a real problem. Um, I believe that campaign finance reform is possible when we get fair maps and can start holding leaders accountable at the ballot box, because that starts to take some of the power out of corporations. There's a really interesting movement, and I'm trying to remember the name of the organization. The man leading it is named Tom Ross. I'll come up with it. Where they are functionally helping states write their business law
Mm.
so that corporations might have the right to invest in a campaign, but they aren't actually able to if they want to do business in that state. And I think that's a really clever solution that I'm
Yeah.
certainly interested in. And if we have federal fair map legislation, then our U.S. House of Representatives is actually, beholden to voters as well.
Yeah, I know. It's such a chicken and egg situation where it's like, okay, well, in order to like neuter that threat, we need people in there who will do that. And how do we get people in there that will do that? Not through gerrymanders,
Right.
or at least not through GOP gerrymanders. So there's the
Yeah.
rub. And
Well,
so it's
and
going
you
to
have
take
to
all
be
that
able to
too.
win to get in there to fix it. And
Right. Right.
we have this system that presumes it takes a lot of money to win. I actually think it's possible to win creatively
Right.
without a bunch of money. Um, in my state Senate race, I ran a race that cost like $1.43 per vote, which for context, most state legislative races cost somewhere in the $50 to $70 per vote range.
Mhm.
And then when you look at US House races, you're looking in the, hundreds of dollars a vote. So we're trying to run this campaign solely on grassroots donors, no corporate money. It's like $5 and $10 at a time, but it also means, and it's mostly coming from inside the state. And so that means that I answer to the people that will elect me in two different ways. So they like own me all the way.
You are their creature, which is
Yeah.
how it's supposed to be. We, the people, are
Yeah.
supposed to be sovereign. Last I checked, that all sounds incredible. The Citizens United thing. One of the reasons, and we're not, this isn't one of the bullets that we're going to discuss at length, but one of the reasons that I talk about jurisdiction stripping for the Supreme Court is there is actually case law that allows stripping of jurisdiction after the fact to nullify Supreme Court decisions. So I'm definitely, at some point, also, I think it's worth, like, for people who are really into campaign finance reform to also hold hands with Supreme Court reformers, because you
Yes.
can get, you can also end around some of these terrible decisions that have been made by SCOTUS, to be like, well, that wasn't really your thing anyway. We're going to take it away from you now. And that's a constitutional right that the Congress has. So, but that's a whole other thing. Let's get into taxes, because we love to talk about taxes. I love to talk about taxes. I talk about taxes all the time on my channel. And one thing that I've been beating the drum about since you talked about the Big Beautiful Bill, I reported on the Big Beautiful Bill extensively in
You
2025.
did.
And it was heartbreaking. I hated every single second of it, to be honest. And corporate tax law was one of the reasons. What's interesting is that corporate tax law and the horrible non-marginalized, completely too low rate of 21% that it is now was actually established by the TCJA in 2017. And all that the Big Beautiful Bill did was give them more. They already had, some of the biggest corporations had effective tax rates of 2%, 3%, 1%, -1%. Like, some of them have gone into the negatives because, like, we're basically paying them to exist now, which is
Yeah.
bonkers. I want to know from you, if you were like, on day one, I could wave a magic wand and this would be the tax code. And obviously
Yeah.
that's not how it works. But if you walked into Congress and they handed you a wand and said, the tax code is going to be what now, you would say what?
I am super excited about this because we have a bipartisan opportunity with bills actually already laid out and ready to go. There's a group called the Patriotic Millionaires. They have this thing called the money agenda.
Yes.
And in short, I would enact the money agenda. What that really looks like is we start by making every dollar worth the same amount. So it doesn't matter if you earn that from working your job or if you inherit it or if you get it in the stock market. It is a dollar is a dollar is a dollar.
Right.
And then in my proposal, every household's first $100,000 of income is federal tax free. Elon Musk gets $100,000 of federal tax-free income. So do you and I in our households. And then once you cross the $1 million a year income mark, your tax rate goes literally through the roof. I'm talking, tens and tens and tens of percentages.
Correct.
And that's how we fund the tax cut for us normies out
Right.
here. And it's really interesting to me to think about the benefits that come from that. Obviously, people need to have money in their pockets in order to participate in all of the good things about America. We also have companies who are able to stay profitable purely because workers are paying taxes, so the company doesn't have to, and that is completely backwards.
Yeah.
But people are also, when they feel secure, it is like, this is the behavioral science part. If
Mhm.
you feel secure, you are more likely to have an open mind about other things. When you feel safe and stable and secure in your own life, you're less likely to need to look for someone to blame for things that challenge you. And so, by making sure that people have financial stability, we can then also start to work on some of these other, like, giant societal problems without as much like anti-trans bullshit and, like, ICE nonsense. And we don't need to blame people when we can feel secure in our own well-being.
I love that you brought up two specific things. Safety, felt safety. It's like, it's impossible to get voters to vote for progressive and far-reaching ideas when they're in survival mode. It's
Yep.
impossible. And as frustrated as I am with people who chose economics in the 2024 federal election, I also understand. Like, I'm frustrated and really mad at you, and I understand why you did it, because you have been put into survival mode by our economy since the 80s. Obviously, it's a whole long story. I want to double click on the second thing, the Patriotic Millionaires.
Mhm.
Such a great, like, pack thing
Yes.
to get into. Some for those listening now or will be listening back later, Abigail Disney is a big spokesperson for them, but there's also several others. It's basically a coalition of literal millionaires, or greater, who understand that our economic system cannot be this upside down pyramid that it is, which is that we have, the K-shaped economy, as I talk about all the time
Mhm.
on my stuff. It's the vast inequities, the fact that, the top 1% are doing, most of the spending. None of that is sustainable. And people who are actually wealthy understand that too. Like they realize like that's an unsustainable system for them as well. When you actually create things and you're actually a millionaire because you did create a successful business, you understand how quickly that can go away if there's no more consumer,
Right.
which we are on the path, like history
Yeah.
tells us, we are on the path to have no consumers
Yeah.
pretty soon. Um, and whether we like it or not, we are a consumer-based economy here. So anyway, I'm so glad
Yeah.
that you touched on those things. You have clearly put like a lot of thought into it. I hate the trope that's trotted out like by GOP and conservatives on a regular basis of when, liberals or independents like myself who lean liberal are saying like tax the rich, and they think that we just mean like go like we have no concept of money or like how it works. It's like, no, I
Yeah.
understand exactly how it works. Like
Yeah.
I'm not nobody's saying like that we can just tax ourselves out of the problem, but what we can do is like start with broadening the revenue base, because right now, like I said, there are some companies we're literally paying to exist, and that is
Yes.
stupid. I love that. Uh, Along those lines, I have obviously 2 points about taxes on my candidate of our
Yep.
dreams checklist. And one of them is about high net worth individuals. I talk about it because I want to deal with the fact that we have pass through taxation here in this country where you can own like a multi-million, multi-gazillion dollar business, but you could pass it through to an individual. And so the business doesn't get taxed, you do. And if it's more advantageous for you to do that high net worth. So we have to hit it on both sides. Do you have
Yes.
any, besides the patriotic millionaire framework, do you have any other frameworks that you'd like to pull into that?
I am primarily leaning on the Patriotic Millionaires work
Hmm.
because I love the idea that they have literally written the bills out, and it is a
Right.
thing we can do immediately
Yeah.
from a bipartisan place.
Right.
On the corporation side, we have just made everything entirely too complicated. This is kind of back to like a dollar needs to equal a dollar almost no matter where it comes from. Um, corporations make money because consumers spend it. Corporations make money because workers enable them to make their widgets or
Right.
whatever, and they should be contributing back into the economy at an appropriate level.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that I like to talk about is that I like to think of corporations as like renting our infrastructure. You use our
Yes.
roads, you use our water, electricity, you use a lot of things that are technically public or whatever. Yeah, I realize like I'm in the land of Dominion power, so like public energy is a misnomer around here, but it is a monopolistic utility made monopolistic by our government, which I think it needs to be monopolistic for the sake of infrastructure. Like that makes sense.
Yes.
But the fact that it's for profit and everything is a completely different issue.
Roads are a really, really good example of that.
Yeah.
Like, what is Amazon if they don't have a road to drive the trucks on?
Right.
And roads are paved and maintained by our local and state governments and,
Correct.
highways, freeways, whatever, crossing state lines, federal government. I mean, it is a really big deal to have a
Mhm.
road to drive on.
Yes. And
Yeah.
industrial vehicles have exponentially more wear on those roads.
Yes.
I remember listening to some research that was like 9 times the damage, like 9 times the wear and tear of like a consumer vehicle. It's not, oh, it's got one more axle, so it's like it's not proportional. It
No.
is exponentially worse. So anyway, we could go on and on
Yes, we
forever.
could.
I love the thoughtfulness behind your campaign points. Let's talk about universal healthcare.
Let's.
Let's do it. Because oh my God, let's look around for a second. This is bananas. And I, dirty little secret time as an independent who used to lean right and now leans left. I used to believe that whole bootstrap yourself into a job, get health insurance, and you'll be fine. What's the problem? COVID fixed all of that for me.
Yeah.
Day 3 of COVID, I was like, that is the dumbest shit I ever believed, and I will never believe it again. What is your I don't know if you've ever had a Damascene conversion like I had about universal healthcare. What is your plan? Like anything you want to tell about that part of your campaign story?
Yeah, so fundamentally, it's Medicare for all is the most straightforward way to get healthcare to Americans. My background is in public health. I got my master's in public health from UNC. So I have believed healthcare is a right for as long as I was really thinking about it.
Okay.
If you don't have your health, you can't engage in the economy. You can't raise kids. You can't participate in everyday society. Like it is as important to be able to care for your health as it is for you to go to the grocery store and spend money, right? It's critical for people to have the opportunity to be healthy. And as we develop all of these new early detection, preventive care, cutting edge treatment pieces, we're reaching a point where if you have a lot of money, you have access to it. And if you don't have a lot of money, you don't have access to it. And it is just another gap that we are creating between haves and have nots. And as you said, I think it was CBS did a study, and 60% of Americans can't achieve a minimum quality of life on what they are earning. I guarantee they are not experiencing quality health care.
No.
Now, Medicare for all is the super straightforward, that's it, cut and dry piece. But another component of that is that pricing needs to be transparent. Folks need to understand how much a thing is going to cost. I have told this story on the internet before, so apologies to anyone that has heard it before, but it really settled in for me when I had my son. I literally pushed him out at 1 o'clock in the morning. This is graphic. Sorry, everybody. He exited the womb at 1 a.m. And at 8 a.m., the financial services department wheels the computer into my hospital room and told us that we owed $3,600 and asked for a credit card.
Yeah.
And in that moment, I was like, I don't think that's right. I have kick-ass health insurance. My husband is a federal employee, and we buy the Cadillac health insurance and it for a bunch of reasons. But I was also exhausted and had just birthed a baby, and so I just handed the credit card over. They charged it for $3,600, and it took us 8 weeks to get that money back, because we didn't owe any money at all. We owed $0, and it was just their prepayment estimate.
Yeah.
I'm lucky that I had the savings to be able to pay my mortgage while I was fighting the hospital to get the money that was rightfully mine back from them. And so while universal health care fixes a lot, it is also about improving communication and transparency in our healthcare system and ensuring that it is actually patient-centered, not just patient-centered care, but patient centered financial support.
Right. Amazing. First of all, I love/hate that story.
But it's
Why
just
do we treat each other like this? It's so inhumane. I know that Europe, I interviewed a woman from Canada, had really nothing to do with politics. It was about economics and fertility and whatnot. But she and I did an interview several months back, and she's Canadian. She was like, just so you know, we look at you guys a little weird about that. That's weird that you all do that. And and they talking about healthcare leave, the actual birthing, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
She's like, that is not a thing. And it's only because we've been brought up in the matrix of it that we think it's normal. It's not normal. It's not normal.
And even in that moment, the back of my brain was like, this feels wrong.
Right.
But also,
Also,
7
why?
hours ago, I was in labor. And so maybe things just aren't right. It feels predatory because it
Right.
is.
Oh, 100%. Well, and that's the thing is tying, I think whether you've given birth, had surgery or whatever, tying that to making that a commodity, the fact that we have for-profit health/life insurance in this country pisses me off. I'm like, that's the literal bodies of human beings. There's no way you can't make that ethical. There is no way to make such a thing ethical. I don't care. People try to song and dance their way around it. I'm like, it's impossible for that to be an ethical practice. It is actually just predatory. So I'm glad that you used those words. All
It's
right, Kate.
also fucked up that we fundraise to pay people's medical debt. Like,
Right.
that's an insane thing that we have to do.
It
Sorry.
it's
I will spend
no.
all night on this. You can move me on. But
No,
yes.
it's
Yep.
totally fine. I love all of the anger and the rage and the energy because this is what we want to see. If we're gonna have again Congress slash candidate of our dreams, we have to bring it. That's the fight we're gonna have to bring
Yeah.
into 2027. Like when the new Congress is seated, I I for one, as a citizen and expecting, like
Yeah.
on the day of
Yes.
swearing in, there to be just nonstop. And you know what I think is great, for some hope core, as people like to call it. Trump did a retreat with the GOP congressional caucus yesterday,
Mhm.
and was already whining to them like, "Hey, if y'all lose midterms, I'm gonna get impeached." And I was like, "Yes, you are.
Yeah.
You sure are. I'm glad you understand that." And so but that's not gonna just happen, right? Like, he understands it's happening based on the current energy, and so that's why it's gotta be, like, can't stop, won't stop, for a while.
I also don't trust them to not come up with some sort of like brain wiping weird bill in August or maybe in
Yep,
July, and that like makes enough of us forget about the pain of the last year and a while.
right.
Because that's how it works. Our attention, like we have recency bias. We will hold on to the things that happened most recently. Anyway, yeah. So I'm nervous about it. And yet another reason I wanted to run when they weren't expecting me to.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I luckily I think that unfortunately for them, because we have this primary situation, the season has started, the
Yes.
2026 season has started.
Yeah.
That thing it's gonna be front and center. I mean, people have been asking when midterms are
Mhm.
since last January.
Yeah.
Like, it was like January 21, they were like, "Okay, so when can we get rid of these people? Because this ain't it." Or like I think the Google search for recall spiked because you can't. In case anyone didn't know this, you can't recall federal officials. It's impossible. They have to be impeached. So sorry,
Yes.
but that was the very first like civic like question that was put in like that first week of and right after inauguration, everybody was like, "When do we get rid of these human beings?" So,
Yeah.
fortunately, I do think that the fight is long lasting, and I also think that we're seeing the getting worse before it gets better. Unfortunately, I say unfortunately because I like the lives that have been lost
Yes.
in
Literally.
all of this, right? Literal lives that have been lost in all of this is reprehensible. The one was too much. All of this is a tragedy.
Yeah.
At the same time, they continue to tell on themselves with
Yes.
how much we need to get rid of them. So it's like, I really need you to stop. And at the same time, since you're not going to stop, like I will just show everybody who you are through this. So
Yep.
that's fine too, I guess. It's not fine. It's the best we can make out of it.
One of the things I
Um,
talk about a lot is we're used to this like continuum that goes from Democrat to Republican or liberal to
mm,
conservative, however you want to think about that. But we have been, especially on the Democratic side, not paying as much attention to the other axis, which goes from status quo to burn it down.
correct.
And so I think probably what we are living through right now is a lot of people becoming discerning about what burn it down actually looks like
Correct.
and having voted from a burn it place. And now they're like, oh, but not like that. We do not want to burn it like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. And I really love the like to emphasize these points. And then I promise I'll let you go. I could keep
No.
you much longer, but to emphasize the points, I love the thoughtfulness of the campaign and platform issues that you just outlined. I the progressive candidates, the woke liberals or whatever, that the pejoratives that are used, but the actual progressivism that I have seen has been this extremely thoughtful, well-researched, evidence-based thought process. It's not you didn't just wake up in the morning and say, "I hate Donald Trump. What is the thing that I can put in place that would piss off Donald Trump the most?" You're like, "I don't we really just want him to go away so that we can do things that
Yeah.
will help the American people." It's really that simple. And it's not it isn't a burn it down. And I've seen some of that, especially online. The internet's weird. That rhetoric of burn it down from like the left, as in like the only thing left is to burn all the buildings. And I'm like, no, Like, we have
But
all
it
these.
is a really cool opportunity to iterate on what we've had.
Yes. Yeah.
And that is what makes me feel really excited. That is my version of Hope Corps, is like we've all been through basically this collective trauma to recognize why we don't want it to be this way. And now, like, our democracy has never worked for everyone. There's always and we can now try to move, I think, in a bigger swing
Right.
towards the goal of a democracy that works for everyone. I
Exactly.
basically frame everything in the campaign platform is like just trying to make things fair, like trying
Mhm.
to make sure that no matter who you are, no matter who you were born to or where you were born in the country, that you have a fair shot.
Right.
And that means a whole bunch of different things, but like we are so far from it, but we have the chance to like get there. Like I really think we can move in that direction in big ways.
Agreed. That's why I framed the question around like neoliberalism versus anti-neoliberalism,
Yeah.
because that gets away from like right versus left or whatever. It's like, well, no, this overarching narrative of like, again, I mentioned bootstraps earlier, like that bootstrapping, individualistic, may the odds be ever in your favor thing is seen as like a virtue of being
Yeah.
a US citizen or whatever. And it's like, it's actually just, like you said, a collective trauma that we've all been going through
And you can't
for decades.
bootstrap yourself on $7.25 an hour.
You
Like,
truly
that does
cannot.
not even buy a dozen eggs.
It does not.
Back to our
I
stupid eggs. But
Right,
yes.
back to our stupid eggs. Don't you know the eggs are so super cheap now? It's fine. Everything's fine. God. Kate, I want to give you a chance to plug what you need from We the People, especially your district of North Carolina 14. Any volunteerism, where people can donate. If you want to, please plug your election dates. All that.
Yes.
Like, how can we come help you?
Um, awesome. First up, early voting starts February 12th. So this election is like right here.
Yeah.
Uh, that's exciting. It means like we have a very early opportunity to send a super strong message to all of these Republicans about what they can expect over the next year if they continue this behavior.
Mhm.
Um, I can't imagine anything more important than right now unseating an incumbent Republican congressman as a fake Republican.
Oh
Like
yeah.
that message is so clear in a gerrymandered district that people are fed up and they are all going to lose their jobs if they don't do better. Um, so yes, early, if you're in my district, get out and vote early on February 12th. If you are a registered Democrat and you want to switch to unaffiliated, you have until February 4th to do that. So you've got some time. You can do that on the DMV website. For sure, donate katebarrcanwin.com. And then we are going to do some experiments in volunteer work. We're going to
Okay.
try to make voter outreach a little less painful and a little more fun and engaging. Like, might as well, right?
Right.
And see what we can learn from that. And you can sign up to volunteer on the website as well.
Amazing. All right. Well, I am going to, when I push out this recording in the post that will go out later, I will include links to all of your stuff. I will put the election deadlines, the voter registration deadlines specifically for you because of your situation in there. And this will go out. We'll also send clips across social media. And I do love that you started as Kate Barr can't win, and now
Yeah.
it's Kate Barr can win. Like,
It
we're
is
doing
equally
it.
as ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah, we might as well just you might as well just own the win, like,
Yeah.
and, if real quick before you leave, story time about Timmy, as you call him. He's not happy. As someone who is doing insider stock trading, it's very interesting that he is now unhappy about the fact that you're running against him in the primary. So what was his problem the other
Yeah, he's big pissed.
day?
And honestly, this is just like such an example of these elected officials who haven't actually really had to ever run for their seats. So
Mhm.
he did this thing where he reposted like an 8-minute news interview with me on one of our local news stations, and actually said the words, "Y'all go watch this," which thank you, Tim.
Right.
Please do go watch this, everyone. Like, I could spend a ton of ad dollars trying to reach that audience, and you just gave it to me for free. But he was like, "There's a fraudulent candidate in the Republican primary," and haven't broken any laws.
No.
Voters deserve a choice.
Yep.
If you're good at your job, then you won't worry about it.
Right, right, like, what's the problem, sweetie?
Yeah,
Like, yeah, no,
yeah.
they're just They're just running scared. It's fine.
It
Healthy
just
fear is
means that
good.
it's working, which is
Yes.
pretty fun. Mhm.
Exactly. All right. Well, congratulations on all of the progress so far. Everyone, if you are listening now or later, Kate Barr, NC-14, we are trying to get her through the Republican primary. You heard that correctly. That
Yes.
sounds crazy, but that is what we are doing. Because she is basically Trojan horsing the GOP down in North Carolina, and they deserve every second of this. So anyway, you guys all have a great night. Kate, thank you so much for joining
Thank
me,
you
and
for
good luck
having
with
me. This was a
course.
blast.
Yeah. Good. Absolutely. Have good luck with the campaign, and we'll talk again, I'm
Okay.
sure.